Iran fired more than 350 ballistic missiles at occupied territory targeting Tel Aviv military installations. And on Tuesday morning, a massacre was perpetrated by the Israeli army against 8 seekers in Han Yunis, with multiple Palestinians killed and injured by Israeli army fire east of the city. And the Panamanian government admits using the Air Force and Navy against civilians in Boca del Toro. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. As part of Iran's retaliations to the Israeli aggression, the Islamic Republic fired a massive barrage of missiles towards several occupied territories in Palestine and Israel on Tuesday morning. About 350 Iranian missiles hit directly into a building in the Israeli settlement of Herzliya, where the Air Force confirmed an attack on the Mossad, the Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations of Israel. In addition, several missiles destroyed an Israeli missile depot in Sharon, as well as the Amman Logistics Center belonging to the Israeli intelligence agency. In this context, according to the Israeli government, 5 people have been wounded in these attacks. In this sense, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran issued a 6th announcement of Operation True Promise 3. The announcement addressed the people expresses a new wave of air-to-air missile strikes by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps began moments ago, more powerful and devastating than before. The initiatives and capabilities used in this operation, despite extensive support from the United States and Western powers and the possession of the latest and newest defense technology, led to maximum successful missile strikes on targets in the occupied territories. The announcement concludes by saying effective, targeted, and increasingly devastating operations will continue against the vital targets of this false regime until its complete destruction, and victory comes only from Allah, the Almighty, the Wise. And Iran's foreign minister has demanded that the UN and Europe condemn the aggression against the country by Israel in complicity with the United States. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi declared that Iran faces an open aggression by the Israeli occupation, which demands actions by all member states of the United Nations and the Security Council. The statements came during a joint conversation with several foreign ministers and the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas. In this sense, Araghchi described the attacks as an unprecedented blow to diplomacy, while urging European countries to face the reality as it is. He also emphasized that Iran's legitimate defense against aggression will continue with full force and held the Israeli occupation and Washington responsible for the current escalation and ongoing crimes. And during his participation in the 78th UN plenary meeting, Iranian delegate Amir Said Iravani explained that the Zionist regime mainly attacks residential areas, dispelling the Israeli narrative of carrying out surgical strikes without collateral damage. He emphasized that Israeli bombings have left 1,481 Iranians killed and wounded, including children. He also emphasized that the Iranian armed forces have escalated their bombing of strategic targets in occupied territories, concentrating their attacks mainly on Tel Aviv and Haifa, 2 of Israel's most important military centers. Also, during the last day, Tehran's artillery managed to destroy the Iron Dome air defense system by launching 10 hypersonic missiles. And a joint statement released Monday by the foreign ministers of 21 Arab and Islamic countries condemned Israel's ongoing military aggression against Iran, which has been exacerbating tensions in the Middle East. The statement said Israel's strikes on Iran violate the principles of the Charter of the United Nations. It also emphasized the necessity of respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states and adhering to the principles of good neighborliness and the peaceful settlement of disputes. The joint statement expressed great concern regarding this dangerous escalation, which threatens to have serious consequences on the peace and stability of the entire region. The Chinese government accused President Donald Trump of pouring oil on the mounting conflict between Iran and Israel after the U.S. leader warned Tehran residents to immediately evacuate.
The situation in the Middle East has escalated again abruptly, and this does not serve the interest of any party. Fanning the flames, pouring oil, making threats, and mounting pressure will not help to promote the de-escalation of the situation, but will only intensify and widen the conflict. The Chinese side calls on all relevant parties, especially countries with special influence on Israel, to shoulder their responsibilities, take immediate measures to de-escalate tensions, and prevent the conflict from expanding and spreading.
And on Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned the G7 summit being held in Canada. Sources claim that the group's inability to take a stand on the Iranian issue angered the Republican leader, who did not wait for the final declaration. In his hasty return to Washington, Trump ordered 10 million Iranians to abandon Tehran. The U.S. president said to be in talks with the Persian nation to return to the dialogue table, reporting that he would charge businessman Steve Witkoff and Vice President J.D. Vance to reach a good agreement. And on Tuesday morning, a massacre was perpetrated by the Israeli army against 8 seekers in Han Yunis, with multiple Palestinians killed and injured by Israeli army fire east of the city. Gaza's Ministry of Health reports at least 60 Palestinians were killed and hundreds more injured, including dozens critically, after Israeli occupation forces targeted civilians waiting for desperately needed aid at Al-Talia roundabout in Han Yunis this morning. Medical sources confirmed the rising death toll and described severe overcrowding in emergency rooms, intensive care units, and operating rooms. Medical teams are reportedly struggling to treat the influx of casualties due to dangerously limited supplies of life-saving medicines and equipment. Now, have our first short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro condemned Monday the Zionist attack on Iran and urged to find a peaceful solution to the conflict. During his weekly live TV program, Maduro also condemned the silence of the international community about the Israeli aggression and described the attacks as part of the old and new empire's intentions to impose a new global order through genocide and violence. The Bolivarian head of state warned that the present conflict could escalate into a nuclear confrontation and called the parties involved to find an urgent peaceful solution. Maduro also expressed the unwavering support of his country to the Palestinian cause. Maduro also accused the supremacist elites of the world of fueling the current conflicts across the world and expressed Venezuela's solidarity with nations that are victims of their aggression, especially the Palestinians and Iranians.
Every day, supremacists continue to fuel these disputes. Here in Venezuela, we are for peace, for a fair peace, and we're backing the people of Palestine, of Lebanon, of Yemen, of Syria, and the beautiful people of the Republic of Iran.
In another part of his address, Maduro said that those providing financial and military aid to Israel are responsible for the consequences of the current conflict and reiterated that Iran is only exercising its right to self-defense.
Whoever is involved have made the decisions, have put the arms, have authorized that attack to Iran, and they are responsible for stopping this war. Iran, what they are doing is exercising their international right to self-defense.
This Monday, Venezuelan activists held a rally in Caracas in defense and in solidarity with the peoples of the Middle East, victims of Zionist imperialism. They condemned the genocide being carried out in Palestine, as well as the recent attacks by the Israeli army against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Our correspondent Shada Fall has all the details.
Ciudadanos venezolanos y militantes de diversas organizaciones.
Citizens and activists from various organizations gathered this Monday in Plaza Morelos in the capital of the country, responding to a call from the Platform for Solidarity with Palestine. In an act of condemnation of the violence perpetrated by Israel in the Middle East, they expressed their full support for the people of the Gaza Strip.
Ese pueblo heroico, ese pueblo que resiste allí ese embate, son masacrados.
That heroic people, that people who resist there to that attack. They are massacred indiscriminately, children, women, elderly people. And we oppose this action as militants for the causes of the world, for peace against war, and as all Bolivarian and revolutionary militants must always be ready to do so.
Y revolucionario debe estar siempre dispuesto a hacerlo.
También estuvieron presentes miembros de una delegación venezolana.
Members of a Venezuelan delegation that traveled to Egypt last week to join the large humanitarian aid convoy to Rafah were also present. However, the authorities of that country prevented them from passing, and the march, with thousands of activists, was also unable to reach its destination. From the capital of the country, they continue to express their solidarity and reiterate their call for international mobilization to end the genocide. Today we are telling the people of Gaza that we are with them, that we are demanding that the whole world raise its voice so that humanitarian aid can enter Palestine. Because it is not only bombs that have ended the lives of Palestinians, hunger is also ending them due to the lack of food.
En un contexto global marcado por la inacción de la mayoría de los gobiernos.
In a global context marked by the inaction of most governments, brotherhood among the peoples of the world is key to continuing the fight against the imperialism of Israel and its allies. We see how peoples around the world are the ones who determine effective solidarity. Not just the government, because we can see how institutions such as the United Nations, the Organization of American States, or the entire international regime or international state are not effective in stopping this genocidal aggression by the Zionist regime. So only through popular mobilization, only with the Venezuelan people, the Brazilian people, the French people, all the peoples of the world who have been mobilized in the streets. Is it that I believe, and we are convinced that we will be able to stop the massacre, to stop the genocide against the Palestinian people.
Desde octubre de 2023, más de 57,000
Since October 2023, more than 57,000 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli army, which is expanding its war policy in the Middle East every day. In the face of these massacres, Venezuelans reaffirm the right of all peoples of the world to peace, autonomy, and sovereignty.
Chada Fol desde Caracas, Venezuela para teleSUR.
Welcome. The government of Eastern Cape, a province in southeastern South Africa, said more than 80 people have died and at least 1,000 have been displaced because of heavy rains that have caused severe flooding in the region. Due to the severe weather affecting the country, at least 30 young people have lost their lives. In response to this tragedy, June 19th has been declared a day of mourning in the province. The torrential rains on June 10th caused rivers to overflow and destroyed homes and vehicles, especially in Thafa and the surrounding area. Local authorities have also expressed their condolences to the families of the victims and reported that search and rescue efforts continue. We have our second and final short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Panamanian government admits what union leaders and indigenous and environmental organizations have been denouncing. Operation Omega is using the Air Force and Navy against civilians in Bocas del Toro. The Deputy Minister of Public Security, Luis Felipe Icaza, who admitted the use of military force against civilians, confirmed that more than 30 people had been arrested. In addition to the law enforcement agencies and the army deployed on the ground, the communities in Bocas del Toro region in the northwest of the country are being attacked by sea and air. Community members denounced raids and arbitrary arrest of neighbors in the area, including members of indigenous communities who are protected by special protection under international agreements. In Colombia, the Senate is holding its final debate on the labor reform proposed by the opposition. Workers are holding protests demanding the restoration of labor rights. Nan Tobar with the details.
Teniendo como escenario la Plaza de Bolívar en Bogotá,
with Bolivar Square in the capital as the backdrop. The country's labor unions and social organizations held a national rally demanding improvements in labor policies for workers who are being harmed by a reform agreed upon by legislators from the opposition parties, currently being processed in the Senate.
Por lo general, la característica de este Senado, sus bancadas mayoritarias.
In general, the characteristic of this Senate and its majority benches of the traditional parties has been to legislate behind the back of the Colombian people. And today it has the opportunity to ensure that those 19 articles and what the government has proposed as red lines and more than red lines, non-negotiable aspects negotiable because they are the heritage of the Colombian trade union movement of workers, and we do not want crumbs. We do not want a labor reform that is piecemeal.
Forma laboral pegada a retazos.
El descontento de los trabajadores ante la posibilidad de que sus derechos no
Workers' discontent at the possibility that their rights will not be recognized has led them to mobilize and make their demands visible in the face of what they consider to be a counter-reform by pro-business legislators. 79% of the articles have already been approved, with the pending points for discussion representing the most critical issues such as the night work regime, exceptions for micro-enterprises, remuneration for mandatory days off, and apprenticeship contracts, among other issues that workers are calling for close attention.
los trabajadores a prestar toda la atención.
Hay tres absolutamente inadmisibles.
There are three absolutely unacceptable proposals that have been put forward by the oligarchy parties in the Senate plenary session.
El contrato por horas que acaba con la estabilidad laboral, así diga otro artículo.
Which is the hourly contract that ends job security, even though another article states that indefinite contracts will be the norm, the social protection floors that end the minimum wage level.
Acaban con el nivel mínimo del salario mínimo, cosa que no estamos de acuerdo. Y la jornada laboral,
which we do not agree with, and the weekly working hours of 4 for 3, 4 days of work for 3 days of rest, which implies exhausting 11-hour working days and which eliminates overtime.
11 horas, y con lo cual acaban con las horas extras.
Mientras, al interior del Congreso, los parlamentarios
While inside the Congress, members of Parliament began the plenary session after 1 p.m. and addressed the agenda related to the vote and discussion of the articles that complete the labor counter-reform. Expectations were growing outside, and both workers and political sectors of the coalition were joining the alternative of a popular consultation as a way to secure labor rights in the face of the possible approval of an article that blurs the essence of the reform that was initially proposed.
la reforma que se planteaba inicialmente.
A la altura de hoy, faltando pocas horas,
As of today, with only a few hours to go, the card is more or less cut, although the people continue to pressure. Here is a very important rally of young people and workers who have come to hold a sit-in, and it is happening all over the country. The president's firmness in putting the popular consultation on the horizon, I think, explains what is happening there.
popular, creo que explica lo que está ocurriendo allá.
Los trabajadores y demás sectores que se han sumado a estas actividades exigen
Workers and other sectors that join these activities demand that parliamentarians stop legislating behind the people's backs and bowing to the business class in the final debate on this reform. Otherwise, they will take to the streets for a popular consultation.
para la consulta popular. Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, TeleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
Meanwhile, in Peru, Congress approved a law that could grant amnesty to police officers, military personnel, and civilians who committed torture and serious murders during the internal armed conflict. Several organizations have expressed their condemnation and announced legal actions to ensure that the victims' families obtain justice.
Y las Fuerzas Armadas que
Members of the police and armed forces who perpetrated crimes against humanity could be granted amnesty by the passage of a law that has been deplored by the families of the victims of the political violence that the country experienced.
de la violencia política que vivió el país.
Mucho dolor, mucha angustia.
A lot of pain, a lot of anguish, because we have been fighting for many, many years, and in our case, for example, it is already in court. Almost about to be finished. If this law is passed, probably everything will go back to square one and once again remain unpunished.
Todo vuelve a cero y nuevamente a quedar en la impunidad.
Según los expertos, esta norma
According to experts, this law constitutes a serious interference with justice and would affect 156 cases with final judgments and more than 600 cases currently in progress.
El Congreso de la República es enemigo del pueblo. Nosotros los hemos elegido.
The Congress of the Republic is the enemy of the people. We have elected them to enact laws in favor of citizens of the general population, but not to protect murderers and criminals, corrupt people. They are protecting each other, they are protecting the president because she has also committed crimes against humanity.
Ellos la están protegiendo a la señora Dina porque ella también ha cometido delitos de lesa humanidad.
Estos hechos no son nuevos, ya que en 1995
These events are not new, as in 1995 dictator Alberto Fujimori enacted an amnesty law that was met with condemnation and categorical rejection by international organizations. This is really a hard blow for the victims, for the families who have not only fought against resistance in every case, a resistance that must be saluted because there has been a lot of resistance on their part, but also because accessing justice in our country is not very easy. Despite this, they persisted, and today the passing of an amnesty of this nature is an affront to human rights.
Según los comunicados emitidos por diversas organizaciones,
according to statements issued by various organizations, Congress has deployed a political strategy that undermines democracy. It is highly likely that this will happen with what has happened with the statute of limitations for crimes without a statute of limitations, which judges have been consistently rejecting since August of last year, when petitions began from those convicted of crimes against humanity. And in this case there is an additional element, which is that, as I was saying, not only is there a ruling by the Inter-American Court in the case of Peru, but the National Criminal Court has ruled on multiple occasions that amnesty exceptions do not apply in cases of serious human rights violations.
Aunque la norma necesita una segunda votación,
although the regulation requires a second vote, experts announce that they will take all legal measures to ensure that victims obtain justice.
Alcancen justicia. Desde Lima, para Telesur, Ramiro Angulo Maquiavelo.
Ladies, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.